You are listening to Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, aspiring actors. With me, Louise, the artistic director of Standby Method Acting Studio. And every week, I'll be talking with you and sharing how you can become a paid, working, unstoppable actor, because you 1000% can. An acting career is doable. Are you ready? Welcome. I'm Louise. I'm the artistic director of Standby Method Acting Studio. As you know from the introduction in the podcast, I've been coaching actors of all levels for almost 13 years. That is bonkers to even think I've been doing it for that long. Time flies by so quickly when you're having fun. But basically what I do is I specialise in method acting, as you've just heard, and I take actors who are right at the very beginning of their career. So that could be they're just getting started, or they've been dibbling and dabbling around, or maybe they've done a bit of dance or singing or musical theatre or whatever, but now they know they want to be an actor. And I take them from having literally nothing on their CV or not even having an actor's CV, and I develop their skills to such a level that when they start getting out to auditions, they convert more auditions into jobs. And some of those jobs have been amazing what our students have got. So they've had like meaty roles on Netflix dramas, Amazon Prime films, TV soaps, stage plays, in commercials. And also they've landed representation from some really high caliber agents in the industry. So you're in good hands. If I can help them, I can definitely help you. Now, if you like what you hear in this podcast and you want to continue the learning to a more advanced level, and it doesn't matter what level you're at, you could be brand new, but you want to take what you've learned from the podcast further, then I would encourage you to apply for a place on our 10-week method acting module that begins in April. So the spring 10-week method acting module is taking place in the Sheffield studio. Now, do not worry if you're not from Sheffield, because we have actors from all over England travel to come and take the weekly classes. They're 3.5 hours long, and you will get intensive training. So just like you've heard me say, those actors who trained with us, who started off as complete unknowns and complete beginners, then went on to Netflix dramas, I can help you do that. I can help you get your career off the ground, and I can help you turbocharge your talent so people start noticing you in the industry. So I've left the link underneath the podcast to the 10-week method acting module beginning in spring. All you need to do is fill in an application form. Be honest. Tell us what you've been doing with your acting career so far and your acting dreams. Tell us about your passions for it. Tell us what it is that you want me to help you with. And then you'll be invited to an audition, which takes place online on Sunday, the 26th of March. You'll be given a script. I can't help you with the audition, but I do email you some tips, especially for those people who feel a bit shaky, a bit nervous. If you put those tips into use and you turn up, you show us how passionate and enthusiastic you are, and you give the character a good go in the audition, you are going to increase your chances of landing one of the 8 places on the 10-week method acting module starting in spring, in April. So definitely go and check that out. But let's get into the meat of the episode then, which is how to lose yourself in a character. I am often asked about this. I am often told by plenty of actors that they really struggle to connect to the character. And here's the thing, to really lose yourself in a character, it's about understanding who that character is and their world. It's about developing a muscle called empathy in yourself. I think it was Rickman, that said, if you judge the character, you can't play it. And there's absolute truth in that, because when you judge a character, what you're doing is you're creating a gap between the two of you. You're creating a divide. What we actually want to do is bridge the gap between you and the character and bring you closer together. Now, when we're talking about losing yourself in the character, we're not talking about going crazy and you believing you are the character long after the production is finished or long after the audition has gone. We're talking about doing this in a healthy way. We're talking about fueling your imagination and developing that muscle called empathy. So a long time ago, I played a prostitute. Now, it would be so easy to judge a prostitute and go, oh, well, and, you know, make judgments around their life choices. I chose not to do that, not because I've never judged anyone, because obviously I'm a flawed human like we all are, and I have obviously made judgments, but I was really interested and really curious to know what it was like to live that lifestyle and to make that life choice, because obviously I'd never done that. And you've got to approach all characters from a place of absolute curiosity, and this is how you develop that empathy muscle. So there's two ways you can do this. And this is by doing research on your character and also by creating improvisations away from the script. And I decided to do both. My research took up a hell of a lot of time, but it was time worth investing because, as Uta Hagen says, all tedious research is worth one inspired moment. And what she means is a moment of inspiration in the play or in a scene when something happens that you've not thought of before, but it's inspired in that moment because it's come from the fact that you've put so much imagination in, so much research into the role that your imagination is just inspired constantly, or even if it's just that one moment. So what that means is you're not playing the role mechanically. You're not playing it from a place of overthinking or being prescriptive about how it should play. It's just happening. And this is what happened to me. So I went out and I researched, and I'm a very visual person. Now, you might be different to me, and that's absolutely fine, but my research is better if it's visual. So I went out and I decided to go and do a bit of people watching, but the people that I happened to be watching was prostitutes, because obviously I was playing one. It was so fascinating, and it taught me a lot, a hell of a lot. I learned a lot from doing that, because the one thing that I'd not considered in all of this is how unsafe these prostitutes are, because I was like, wow, they're stepping into these cars, they're going off with these men, that could be the last time they ever do that. But on the opposite side, it also made me realise how brave and courageous these women are. And brave and courage is probably not something you might have even considered with a prostitute. But then it got my cogs turning even more, because I was like, well, what's even made them choose this lifestyle? There's something that's happened. So my imagination is going off like 10 to the dozen. I've got all these questions from a place of curiosity where my imagination has got gaps in it. So then I started watching documentaries on women who chose to be prostitutes, and some of them were sharing their life stories of, you know, what got them to that point in their life, and it was absolutely fascinating. And it really allowed me not only to immerse deeply in the character and lose myself in this role, but it allowed me also to choose mannerisms and idiosyncrasies for the character that I would never have thought of just from my pure imagination, because I needed to fuel it with something. So that was the research. And then the other part of it was I decided to do improvisations away from the story in the script for this role. And that was really good because it got me to think outside the box again. It made me make choices that I wouldn't necessarily have considered had I have not done this. And then what happens, because you're putting this amount of research into the role and you're doing these improvisations, you start to get very, very, very invested in this person. And this person becomes a living, breathing human to you who you've found inside of yourself. Because believe it or not, there are ways that I could connect to these women who had chosen the lifestyle of, you know, being a prostitute. And how I connected to them was through the bravery and was through the courage, because I know that. I know what it's like to have to be brave and courageous, just in other ways. I also know what it's like to feel unsafe. So can you see, I'd started bridging the gap. And because I've got so invested in this person and found them inside of myself, it became impossible to not be able to play the character. It was just like literally putting on an old coat that you're really familiar with, or an old pair of shoes. So that's how you lose yourself in the character. But of course, you don't want to take that character home. You don't want to, trick yourself into believing you are this character all the time. So of course you reground yourself by doing things that you love as the actor. By once you've played the character, you shake them off, you leave them behind, you accept that you're not going to play them again, and then you go back into your life and you do the things that you feel passionate about and that light you up and, you know, make your heart smile away from acting. And that's what I did. So that's how you lose yourself in the character. Now, you can get an actor's journal that can guide you and prompt you with the character research, and it can guide you and prompt you with the improvisations to do away from the script. And you can get that actor's journal when you come and train on our 10-week method acting module. So I've already told you about them at the beginning. You know, there's an application form to fill in where you just tell us about yourself, and then there's an audition to do on Sunday the 26th of March. And then if you're successful, you'll get one of the 8 places when we start on Wednesday, the 12th of April, and you will get that journal which goes into this character development process to help you lose yourself in it. And it takes what I've taught you in this episode much, much further. So as always, I hope this has been useful. I hope you found it inspiring. I hope it's given you food for thought. If it has, please do leave us a review, because this helps me help more actors like yourself around the world. And please do also go and check out the 10-week method acting module, because really that's the best thing you can do for your career right now, is to allow me to guide you and coach you and get that actor's journal. So then you can get out into the industry feeling really confident, knowing that you can connect to all characters on a deep, deep level, and you can start turning more auditions into paying roles. So I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. I have absolutely loved hanging out with you, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, aspiring actors. Now, if you did, I'd really love you to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a review. And if you would like weekly injections of inspiration, you'd like mini method acting challenges to keep you making progress with your dreams, come and join the most supportive acting community online by clicking the link in the notes to help you become an unstoppable actor.